Okay, so let's see here. I'll get to the screen share so we can all see. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna start out. We're gonna start out at the prefix, and then we're gonna go there. Can everybody see the screen share?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So prefix. This is the fourth edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The first edition appeared in April 1939, and in the following 16 years, 16 years, more than 300,000 copies were into circulation. Second edition, published in 1955, reached a total of more than 1,150,500 copies. The third edition, which came off press in 1976, which is the edition I love and have, achieved a circulation of approximately 19,555,000 in all formats. Thus, this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such a large number of alcoholic men and women to recovery. These exits a strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left largely untouched in the course of revisions made for the second, third, and the fourth editions. The section called The Doctor's Opinion has been kept intact, just as it was originally written in 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor. So Dr. Silkworth was the one who came up with the physical allergy and the mental obsession and passed that on to Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. Second edition added to the appendix the 12 tradition and the directions for getting in touch with AA, but the chief change was in the section of personal stories, which have been expanded to reflect the fellowship's growth. Bill's story, Dr. Bob's nightmare, and one other personal history from the first edition were retained intact. 3 were edited, and one of these was retitled. New versions of the 2 stories were written with new titles. 13 completely new stories was added, and the story section was divided into 3 parts under the same heading that are used now. In the third edition, part 1, Pioneers of AA, was left unchanged. 9 of the stories in part 2, they stopped in time, were carried over from the second edition. 8 new stories were added. In part 3, they lost nearly all. 8 stories were retained. 5 new ones were added. The fourth edition includes the 12 concepts for the World Service and revises the 3 sections of personal stories as follows. 1 new story has been added to part 1, and 2 that originally appeared in part 3 have been repositioned there. 6 stories have been deleted. 6 of the 8 stories in part 2 have been carried over.
Please
11
mute
new ones.
yourselves.
Please put your mic on mute, please. Thank you. So part 3 now includes 12 new stories. 8 were removed in addition to the 2 that were transferred to part 1. All changes made over the years in the Big Book AA members' fond nickname for this volume have been the same purpose to represent the current membership of Alcoholics Anonymous more accurately, and thereby to reach more alcoholics. If you have a drinking problem, we hope that you may pause in reading one of the 42 personal stories and think, yes, that happened to me, More importantly, yes, I felt like that. Most important, yes, I believe this program can work for me. Questions? No questions. Okay, so let's go to the first edition. Forward to the first edition. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. Says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So I got a question. What do we recover from?
Seemingly hopeless state.
Seemingly hopeless state
State of mind and body.
Okay, so we recover from what?
A seemingly
Seemingly hopeless
body.
state of mind and body.
Okay, so then we don't recover from alcohol.
Alcohol is a symptom.
Oh, is that right? So Ron, tell me, what's up with this? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What's up with all that?
Where they?
You know how people be talking about, you know, man, you know, that thing was on my back. What is that all about?
They think alcohol is their problem.
They think alcohol is the problem. So what do we recover from?
A seamless, hopeless state of mind and body.
A seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That's what we recover from. It seems like we hopeless when we caught up in it, right? So
Right.
that's the reason why they say a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So it says to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of the book. Anna, what's the main purpose of the book?
Main purpose of the book is to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered.
James. James,
Yes.
what does precisely mean?
Exactly.
Exactly. So the main purpose of this book is to show other alcoholics exactly how we have recovered. That's the main purpose of the book, right?
That is true.
Okay. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincingly that no further authentication will be necessary. Betty. Can you hear me, Betty?
Yes.
Okay. So they said, for them, we hope that these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. What does that mean?
Ah, you put me on the spot. Oh, oh my goodness. I don't know, Derek. I don't know.
It says it right there. For them,
Okay.
we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. So they saying to us that when we go through these pages, we hope that they will convince us so much to the point that we won't need any further authentication, that it won't be necessary,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Okay. So we think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand alcoholic. Now, to me, a lot of people try to separate the alcoholic from the addict. To me, they are the exact same. They both suffer from mental necessity and physicality. We got to find that out as we continue to study, right? So, you think that this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic and or addict. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Now, that's important to me, right? They said that our way of living has its advantages for all. So they mean that anybody can benefit from this way of living, because that's what it is. It's a lifestyle, right? It's a way of living. recovery is a lifestyle. It's a way of living. Am I right, Mara? Can you hear me? You high now?
No, sir, I'm driving.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. It's not something we do, every once in a while. It's something that we do on a daily basis.
Exactly. It's a lifestyle, right? If we do something on a daily basis, is that considered a lifestyle? I would say yes. So many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. That's why I love this, because this is not just for alcoholics. It has its advantages for all, not just some, not just people who claim to be in recovery. Y'all with me? Okay, so it is important that we remain anonymous because we are too few at present to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from this publication. Being mostly business and professional folks, we could not well carry out our occupations in such an event. So back then, right, they was mostly business and professional folks. So they was like CPAs and that kind of thing, right? Doctors, right? So they didn't want to be put out on the spot, right? They didn't want this information to be public, or their names to be public. So that's the reason why they were talking about we remain anonymous because we are too few. And at present, to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from this publication. Being mostly business and professional folks, we could not well carry out our occupations in such an event. We would like it understood that our alcoholic work is an avocation. When writing or speaking publicly about alcoholism, we urge each of our fellowship to omit his personal name, designating himself instead as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So a lot of people who are in fellowship don't follow that to this day, right? They don't say that they're a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. They say, hey, I'm Derek, I'm an alcoholic. Or hey, I'm whatever, and I'm an alcoholic, right? So instead, they were designating themselves as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Very honestly, we ask the press also to observe this request, but otherwise we shall be greatly handicapped. We are not an organization in the conventional sense of the word. There are no fees or dues whatsoever. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. We are not allied with any particular faith, sex, or denomination, nor do we oppose anyone. We simply wish to be helpful to those who are afflicted. Notice that they said those who are afflicted. That's very interesting that they will use that word. We simply wish to be helpful to those who are afflicted. So they're saying people like me have been afflicted. We shall be interested to hear from those who are getting results from this book, particularly from those who have commenced our work with, other alcoholics. We should like it to be helpful to such cases. Inquiries by scientific, medical, and religious societies will be welcome. Alcoholics Anonymous. Questions?
Derek, first, listen, when you talked about that when they first got started, I was always thought that the reason why they didn't want it to really be, in addition to them being, professional and so forth, and don't want, to keep anonymity, I always thought also they was concerned about the overflow that they may get once that people start hearing about that, and that they weren't able to assist all the people that would be coming asking for help.
Well, they were concerned about that, and they talked about that. I mean, they specifically said that, right?
Right.
You know, so even in today's, in today's fellowship, right, a lot of people wish to remain anonymous because they fear about their job and all that kind of stuff. Me personally, I do not care who know I'm in recovery. You know what I mean?
Amen.
I'm happy to be in recovery. My life has changed dramatically, since being exposed to this information, and I'm forever grateful that I got the opportunity to be exposed because, like I said in the beginning, I think that this is the greatest self-help program ever created, period, hands down. So it's not only about self-help, but it's about self-care too. And I think it's the greatest program ever created for those purposes.
Absolutely.
So I have no, I have no bones about anybody knowing that I'm in recovery. I'm grateful. You know what I mean? But I understand and I respect that some people have issues with that. I know a few people like that. They don't want nobody. They want to remain anonymous, and that's their right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
right.
For me, I just ain't with it. Okay, Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm an alcoholic. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jackie.
I do believe back then too, because I've had some. I'm grateful to be in AA, and like you said, it saved my life. And there were times when I would shout it from the rooftop or fly a plane saying I'm in AA, I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I do know back when they first started AA, there were a lot of high prominent people with big jobs, with executive jobs, and they were on boards and they were on committees. Mm-hmm. And people knowing that they were alcoholics would jeopardize their standing in the community. Right. So that's why the anonymity came in also. And I also witnessed that on the job I had where I broke my anonymity to one of the managers because she was having a problem with her husband. And I broke my anonymity and told her who I was and, how long I been in recovery. And what happened, and I can understand back in the day when it was first started, how this can happen. What happened, she stopped speaking to me. And every time a position was open and I applied for it, she would always vote it down. So I learned back then that I have to be very guarded with my anonymity as to who I break it to. Because even though people say they understand, but then too, they don't see the spiritual side of it like we do. They don't see life being changed like we do, and they don't get it. And my sponsor told me when that happened to me, it wasn't for everybody else to get, it was for me to get. So I understand those prominent people not wanting people to know, because some people are out to get you. I've experienced that in my personal life, and I still keep coming back. It didn't stop me from coming back and still being vulnerable enough. I have a better discernment now of letting people know who I am without jeopardizing my standing in the community or whatever organizations I'm in. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, and that's valid. And they talked about, right, they said that, being mostly professional folk, right? So a lot of those people, they were doctors, lawyers, stockbrokers, all that kind of stuff, right? So I can see why they would want to protect their anonymity too. I get it. I just so happen to be in the position to where I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't have that issue with like somebody, find me on the job or having issues with somebody on the job because, of my status, right? Because I'm in recovery. So I don't have that as an issue. But I understand that some people may have that as an issue. You know, I was just speaking from my point of view that I don't have that as an issue, and I don't, that's not a concern for me. I don't care who knows that I'm in recovery. But again, I understand that some people, you know, may want to protect their anonymity for their career purposes. So I get it. And, you know, again, they shared that, hey, most of them were professional folk. You know what I mean? So it was not only about, you know, protecting their anonymity because they were professional folks, but it's like Percy brought up, right? That he thought that, you know, they didn't want to be overwhelmed with all of the people reaching out to them in regards to what they had created. Make sense? Okay, let's go back to the
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Anybody else? James.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
got James H with his hand up.
Oh no, my name is Chris. I'm an alcoholic and addict, and I'm here to tell you, everybody knew I was in, you know, I was on the streets and a raging alcoholic and an addict, and now I love telling people I'm in recovery. You know, it's like when I first meet somebody, I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm in recovery. I've been doing real good. I love my sobriety, so I don't hide it. You know, I tell everybody, man, because I really love my sobriety, and man, it just feels good waking up sober and being able to have food and, you know, just dealing day-to-day life and seeing life as it is, you know, sober. It's the first time I've ever been sober in my life, you know, this long, you know, outside of prison or jail. So, you know, I love my sobriety, and I tell everybody about it all the time. The people that know me from the past, they're like, man, you know, you're doing damn good. And, you know, I'm real thankful for the chance to be able to experience life soberly, man, in a willing way. You know, I'm not being forced sobriety down. You know, I'm doing this willingly. I'm a participant in my sobriety, and it feels good. Thank you for letting me share.
Okay, thank you. So stay around, man. Don't go nowhere, right? You know, I used to say it all the time, right? Now that you're here, stay your ass here, right? Okay.
Yes, right.
You know, because sometimes we come in and we can be very excited. I know I was. You know, I was so grateful when I first came in. You know, if they had told me in order to experience recovery, I had to climb on top of the building and jump over to the next building, I'd have tried. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. But I was so desperate that I would have been willing to do that. You know what I mean? And thankfully, I didn't have to go through that process. But what I did have to do was I had to sit myself still, right? And try to learn about the process of recovery. And in doing so, I've become very successful with it, you know? And I'm grateful. So stick and stay, man. Don't go nowhere, okay?